In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the brand new Brompton so-called G line or G spot line if you have trouble remembering the name. None of these letter IDs make much of any sense, so it's hard to remember, but you'll remember from G spot. So this is a drastic redesign. It's not out yet and we don't know all of the specs. We don't know the price, but I can give you a pretty good suggestion as to what those are going to be. So basically what this is Brompton finally, after 2 or 3 decades, has taken a tip from the rest of us, the people who are building and modifying Brompton frames. Shops like Kinetics. Kinetics has been featured on this channel a number of times. Vostok, no longer in business but still available on the market. They also have been featured, and a number of other companies. Now these companies have made many things. We have done many things with the Brompton. One complaint was the brakes are not powerful enough. The grip brakes are not powerful enough for modern day riding, especially taking downhills. The tires are way too narrow, especially for urban environments. Looking at the terrain or the road in Manhattan or anywhere in New York, especially in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, is not much different from looking at a picture of the surface of the moon, really. So we have been complaining over and over, and we just cannot fit a 2-inch wide tire because of the fork and the extremities, which we were hoping would be resized. Well, now they have finally resized. They are addressing the braking issue. The brakes are hydraulic, not just disc but hydraulic, so they have gone all the way. I don't know the brand, but a hydraulic disc setup is going to be a major upgrade compared to what the old Bromptons were like, with the grips up here. Now hydraulic discs are also going to make the bike slower and heavier, but this bike is not intended to be a better speed bike for the city. So this is definitely aiming for rugged terrain and touring and rugged riding, even though the people who will buy this bike are going to be a different market, and I will say more about that later. So what else did we complain about? Some people, for comfort, wanted a bigger wheel. I am vehemently opposed to a bigger wheel. Bigger wheels have been tried before. I mean, this is one of those aftermarket setups. They are ugly. Putting 20-inch wheels onto a bicycle that was designed for the aesthetics of 16 just does not look good. I appreciate the custom mudguards here. They are really smooth and they are a good deal better than trying to modify the stock mudguards. And of course you see everything in this aftermarket modification of the Brompton. It has the disc brakes, but the more traditional derailleur, although this is a custom derailleur. Now what they have done was also they are now selling a hub gear, which is a Shimano hub. Here it is. They don't seem to offer a roll-off hub, which a lot of people for this price range might want, but the Shimano is still a big improvement. And if they can install it, then that means that they finally changed the sizing on the triangle. So this is a standard width triangle. If you don't like the Shimano, you can take it out, put in a roll-off. Hopefully you can get some money for a brand new Shimano hub, but you would save so much money if you could just order it from the factory like that, pre-installed. Hello, good morning. So they changed that. They installed the brakes. These particular tires are slightly over 2 inches. Schwalbe has the Big Ben, which I would prefer to this one for an urban commuter. That's a 2.25, but you know, the 2-inch wide tire or the 1.9 is fine. Even 1.5 would be a great option to have. Now, what I would have preferred would have been to not enlarge the wheel. The wheel size of 16 should have been left as it was. This is something that the Birdie also experimented with, but with the old frames it just doesn't look good. Now here they have actually modified the frame. So in order to fold a 20-inch wheel under, they had to lift the arch higher, which now looks really bizarre, unless they also made the bicycle longer, but they have not made it longer. So they are distorting the original proportions, which is precisely what annoys me with their titanium and other attempts. Not to mention that they are sticking with this straight line front fork, which is very similar to what they have on the titanium, but they have changed the steering column as well. So the steering column is more modern looking. It goes with the modern looking front better, but the rest of the bike is the same. So what you have now is a bike that looks 21st century in the front and 20th century in the middle and the rear, which really does not make sense. Are they trying to compete with offerings from Riese und Müller and Alex Moulton? If they are going to lose. If you want something to really just travel with, to go outside of the city, then either a Birdie or a Moulton designed for the task would be better. You can get this Birdie. These are Singapore dollars. Check this out. This is only a little over $2,100. I'm willing to bet that Brompton is going to be a lot more than that. Now this one has exterior gears, but you can get you can get even the roll-off with the Birdie if you have the money to afford it. Check out the price. Even this price is not bad. A little over 4K for a roll-off setup, hydraulic discs, an excellent frame, front and rear suspension, very important. This is something the new Brompton is still not going to give. They still don't realize that people want more suspension. They want a better rear suspension. There is a little bit, and that's kind of off even with the Birdie, but the front needs to do something, especially on rough terrain. If you want the ultimate suspension, then obviously the ultimate bike is always the Moulton, and I always get back to that. They offer a huge range of product. It's not cheap, but it's several levels above the Brompton and at least a couple of levels above the Birdie as well. Just look at something like a big wheel. They have fat tire options, several of them, with everything already configured. The one weakness they have, and look at the gorgeous paint job, front and rear suspension, much longer travel in the rear than either on the Birdie or in the Brompton. In the front, this is actually not going to be better than the Birdie because of the ingenious engineering of the Birdie's front design, and I will say more about that in another video. But the rest of it, it's all pre-made. This one has a disc brake in the rear, which I think should be enough with a V-brake in the front. The V-brake is only mechanic. For $100 you can upgrade it to a hydraulic, which I'm totally in favor of not even going for a disc, but just to keep the original fittings with the grip brakes, but go hydraulic, which you can do without modifying the frame, and it's so much better, but it's not as powerful as the disc. So I have ridden both the mechanical grip, mechanical disc, hydraulic grip, hydraulic disc, and the hierarchy is obvious. Hydraulic disc is the most powerful version. Also, if you want hub gear setups, you can do that with the Moulton. I'm giving you a link below, as I always do, and check it out. Check out the original website. This seems to be using the same kind of tire, well, almost the same as the new Brompton So if Brompton is after the people who are putting this bike into a car and heading out to the forest on weekends, they're not going to get that, because the Moulton is actually more compact, because you can separate it and it's actually less weight. Each half is going to weigh maybe 15 pounds, so you don't have to lift the whole 30-pound thing. Birdie also not as versatile as the Moulton, but it has a killer front suspension and a very good frame and monocoque frame. It's not something Brompton can compete with. So what can the Brompton do? Where is their market? There is going to be a market for this bike, and it's going to be purchased primarily by the people who use it in the city, because the city environment is at least as rough as any of these trails. I mean, this surface could be in the middle of Manhattan easily. And these are the people who want the foldability, who still want this, who want the ability to put on a big bag and go shopping after work, or just use the bike for shopping during the week and occasionally a visit to the office, and then on the weekend to go for a 50-mile ride with the group. And this bike is going to be excellent for that. I should say a few words about the electric. For the electric version, they moved the motor from the front to the rear, which was a weird decision, because now they cannot run the hub gear in the rear. So they took out the hub gear and they are using that lousy four-speed setup that nobody likes, with the motor moved to the rear. I have no idea why they did that. It's actually much more sporty and more fun to have the motor in the rear, but for what they are advertising this thing for climbing, for rough terrain, for going out into the mountains, you are better off having the electric motor in the front, so that it's actually an all-wheel drive bike. You are pedaling the rear wheel like I do on my build, and on the front you have the electric setup. Of course, my bike has built-in electronic braking, which I cannot praise too much, and their setup does not seem to have that. It's going to be the same tiny 250-watt motor that they currently have in the front of their current city bike, and I'm not sure why anybody would buy that, because this is just going to be so much more comfortable and so much more fitting for the city, because of the bigger tires and because of the hub gear. But the problem is, if you buy the electric, you can forget about the hub gears. You're going to have a very narrow range with the 4 external gears that they give you. So this is my opinion of what they're doing. Look at the modifications that the various shops and do-it-yourselfers have done. This is not putting a bigger wheel in, it's actually putting a real 16-inch rim in, which measures 305 or around 305 millimeters, as opposed to the 349 that the Brompton has been selling. Because you're putting on the ideal urban tire, which is the Schwalbe Big Apple, 2 inches wide, it is sold for the standard 16-inch width. Because it's a smaller rim, it fits into the same frame. So redesigning the frame was absolutely nuts. There was no reason for it. They only needed to change the extremities to standard width and change the rims to the standard 16-inch instead of the 16.25, so that this magnificent tire would fit, and the original aesthetics would not have been disturbed. This is the original aesthetics. I mean, compare this to what they have done. It looks like you got rear-ended from the rear, and the frame got crumpled up. It's the same wheelbase, but now the wheels are bigger, and there is this bizarre sharp curve that they have put in. It's not like the original aesthetic, which is like flawless. This is what we have been doing, replacing the extremities, standard 305 millimeter tires with the Schwalbe Big Apple. I'm not crazy about the original mud guards being modified and used with a fatter tire, but the thing is, with the smaller wheel but thicker tire, you end up roughly taking up the same space. So the aesthetic is not disturbed. Yes, the tires look more massive, but that actually gives the tire, I mean the whole bike, a kind of a classy butch look that I like. I think a lot of people like this look. If you want mud guards, I would have custom mud guards made out of some classy material like wood and pay $200, $300, whatever it costs to have it properly, precisely fitted. Just like it was actually done in some cases. Like in this case, this is an entirely custom job. That's why it fits so precisely, and that's why it looks nice, although the big wheels just don't look like anything for me. I mean, it looks ridiculous in my opinion. So is it competent? Is it going to compete with the Birdie or the Moulton? No, it's not going to, but it's going to compete with the older Brompton designs, which are hopelessly outdated, and this upgrade is badly needed. It is not perfect, but at least they have done something. They have certainly watched many of my videos and other people's videos, so this is a step in the right direction. We don't know the prices yet, and the prices are not gonna be cheap. I would guess for the electric with the hydraulic brakes and everything, minimum 4,000. None of these bikes are going to be sold for less than 4,000. Maybe the purely mechanical ones would be sold for 3,500. I doubt it's going to go lower than that. Maybe lower 3,000.
I'll be back.